So today on Photographers Drinking Coffee Talking Business, we're chatting about how to sell albums with Karen Byker. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Photographers Drinking Coffee Talking Business. I'm Trevor Sherwin and I'm a boudoir photographer based out of Toronto, Ontario, and I run a little company called Provocateur Images, and you can find me on the website provocateurs.ca. Now, in this video series, we're basically talking about something that a lot of photographers have a little bit of trouble with, and that's sales. So what we want to do with this series is give you a behind the scenes look at how people who are in the industry and are just crushing it in sales and how they do it. Now, if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and throw some comments down below so we know that you loved what you see here today. And before I introduce my guest today, I want you to know that this video series is brought to you by GTA Imaging. It's my go-to source for all my finished products, whether it be albums or wall art or, marketing materials, because they do it all. And if you want next level customer service, they are the ones to look into. So if you're interested in setting up an account, you just kind of click below in the show notes. There's a link to set up an account, and then you can do just that. But on to the show. I'm super excited to get into this today because we're talking about selling albums. It's something I do a lot of, but Karen Byker is going to be our guest today, and Karen has been shooting newborns and families since 2005. And you can find her on Instagram at rolphoto.ca. And she's basically helped hundreds of mamas slow down and just use photography as a reminder to take a breath. And she specializes in creating gorgeous finished products, whether it be albums or wall art, that her clients are going to talk about. And let's get into talking to Karen right now. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Now, I want to get everyone to know you a little bit better. So I ask you the question, what is it you do?
So I specialize in taking the chaos of life with young children and slowing it right down and then giving it to parents in a way where they can remember all the good times. That's
awesome. And so that's like actually what you say, I guess, when you first meet your clients, like that's what you do. That's awesome. And then the other question I've got is, do you shoot out of a studio? Is it out of your house? Where are you located? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm located in Grimsby, Ontario, Canada. I photograph in this space, so this is my studio now. Mm-hmm. And I also photograph on location an hour before sunset. So there's a beach that's not too far from here that I love to take my clients to, and there's also a field just a couple of minutes away from there. So it's really one of those three locations, here, the beach, or the field, and that way I can keep my portfolio nice and consistent.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, to put everything in perspective for all of our worldwide viewers, Grimsby is kind of on in and around Lake Ontario, I guess, right? Kind of just a little south of Hamilton, which is about what do we say, about an hour and a bit from Toronto?
That's right, exactly.
So it's almost over towards Buffalo, just to kind of put it on a map. Otherwise, if you really want to find out where Grimsby is, Google Maps are fantastic. So, but yeah, like I guess in the winter it's mainly in-house, and in this time of year, I mean, the weather's just been so awesome. Outdoor things become very practical, I presume.
Definitely.
So I love asking this one question, and it's related to what is a photography myth? Something you know to be either true or false that you want to clear up for all those photographers out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it's not good enough to passively sell your artwork online in a gallery. I strongly believe in sitting down with my clients and walking them through the process and helping them choose albums and artwork for their walls together. And that way I don't leave them with any homework to do.
Yeah, that is so true. In-person sales,
Yeah.
I can't begin to tell you how much of a change it was for me when I went from the passive stuff to in-person sales. Like, it's almost like I created a new revenue stream without doing anything other than just sitting with people. So
Yeah,
that is a fantastic myth that we need to bust right now.
sure.
If you're not doing in-person sales, you probably could do this a little bit better. So we're talking about albums today. And what is it you like most about selling something like an album?
I love the story that it tells. I love that I can include all the little details along the way. When I create wall art for clients, they typically don't choose all of the little sentimental things, the hand holding, right? Typically, some do,
Right.
but it's rare. So when I sell an album, I get to really tell that story from beginning to end in a beautiful way.
Yeah, that's the one thing about good photographers and making albums is there is that kind of flow to it, and there is this story. So as you turn pages, it's almost like watching a video, but in
Yeah.
still format. And
Yeah.
it's really fun. So would you say that then albums are a pretty significant part of your business, or are they kind of a mix with other products, or where do albums sit for you?
So I would say I sell wall art and albums most often. So every client will either choose one or the other or both. And the way that I accomplish that is, like I talked earlier about doing in-person sales, I pre-design an album for every single client I work with. So when we sit down for that sale, the very first thing that they see is their album design up on the screen set to beautiful
Mm-hmm.
music. So
Oh,
work is
that,
already done for them, right?
yeah, we're going to talk more about that later.
Okay.
I definitely want to dig into that little nugget because it's the same thing I do, and it is,
Perfect.
oh my God, that is such a cool thing. Um, Before we get into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about how do you qualify a customer so that you find out they want an album? Like, how do you introduce albums into your sales process? Is it something done at the consult level? Is it done at the final sale level? Like, where do you kind of bring it up, and how do you help them decide?
Yeah, that's an excellent question too. So what I love to do is just incorporate it into every conversation. So from the get-go, like as soon as like a client reaches out to me, they're getting pictures of products. On my website, they're seeing pictures of products. On my Instagram, on my Facebook, everywhere. It's once a week, I'm sharing pictures of products. And that way they know that my goal is to help them actually print their art, right? Create something tangible. But yeah, so when we have that introductory phone call, or whether they come here in the studio, I'm asking them, what do you envision doing with this artwork we create? So the first question is, what's most important to you about this session? The next one is, okay, we're going to make sure we get that. Now, how are we going to display it? Are we going to display it in a book? Do you want to see all the little details? Do you want a story? Do you want a wall art collection? Like, is there a wall in your house that you're hoping to fill? So yeah, definitely like planting those seeds. And then at the shoot itself, when I get the shots that I know they were dying to get, I will tell them, I can't wait to see this in your book. I can't wait to see this. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I love that. Like, that is like one of the key elements to sales, is just like kind of dropping those little hints like, oh my God, this is so great. You are going to love this. This should go on your wall, or this is going to look great in the book. And you kind of get them hyped up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't begin to tell you how much of a skill that is. And it's such a simple thing to do when you get used to doing it.
Yes.
But if you can figure out how to do it, like that increases those sales, and you just build that excitement throughout the entire shoot.
It really does. And the
Yeah.
nice thing about having a studio too is that you can display your artwork there. So I know for on-location photographers, it's difficult to kind of carry
Mm-hmm.
samples with you everywhere you go. But when you come in my studio, the first thing you see is albums and wall art. And when you go to the change room, it's all the way down the hall and back. So when we have people come in, I talk to them about the artwork again before we start start shooting, what are we shooting for? I want to have a goal in mind, right? We talked about this beforehand. We just confirm things. Then afterward, we're flipping through the books. We're feeling the deep matte pages because I'm crazy over deep matte paper.
Oh, we are so talking about that later because that's my favorite thing too.
So good, so good. Yeah, and then when they come back for the in-person sale, really we're just solidifying all the things we already talked about. It doesn't even feel like sales anymore because I've already planted all those seeds.
Yeah, that's a really, really important thing. I just want to dig into just for a second is that you kept talking about how you keep mentioning things and then it's like you qualify them and they go, and there's like saying little yeses along the way. And then when it comes to sales, you made that like absolutely perfect point. It doesn't feel like sales because through just basic suggestion, they kind of understand what they want and you know what they want. And all they have to do is go, yeah, that'll look great. I will take two, like it's, sales is very, very difficult when you have to try to sell something. I used to train sales for years for a retail camera company. And when you would ask people questions and drop hints, and they go, yeah to that. You just as a salesperson kind of in your head go, yes, that's what they want. So when you finally say, okay, let's do this, they're just like, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Like it's a bunch of little yeses instead of one big one. And it's so much easier, right?
It is.
So let's talk a little bit from the sales process to talking about your samples. Now you alluded to this a second ago where you had said there's samples when they walk in, I guess they get a little chance to look at this. Now, are we talking, when we talk about the photos you take, are we talking about younger kids like infants or kids like toddlers? Or is it just like an entire family range?
So I photograph newborns and families. Basically, I love to photograph like maternity, newborn, baby, and family, but I tell my clients, I want to be your photographer for life. So if I can get them in at that like maternity stage, I'm going to get them back, hopefully newborn, baby, and then family. So I have some clients with teenagers now, right? Because I've been doing this since 2005.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It's so fun. And watching them grow, I like stalk my clients on social media sometimes, but it's great because we stay friends, right? And really
So let's talk about your samples. So they come in the door with the parents come in with their kids and stuff. So the first thing you do is not like rush them into a change room. I guess you get them to sit down and have a look at stuff. Is that fair to say, or is there something?
I would say it just depends on how many kids they have. Because if they have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old, those kids are not going to stand and wait while like we're going through stuff, right? Like they want to get started right away. So at that stage of life, no, we would probably dive into wardrobe. We would talk about things. I might be able to have time to talk with mom while dad's changing in the bathroom. I might have time to talk with dad while mom's changing there. So we kind of just have to go on a case-by-case basis when time allows and when it makes logical sense. But definitely after the session, or sometimes even during the session, if we're taking a break from mom to feed baby, if we have a newborn, for example, those are all break times when we can talk about products and what we're going to do with these pictures. Because that's a huge part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so with your samples, like how many of these things do you have? Do you have a lot of album samples overall?
Yes, I do. And I try to make sure that I have some, like all the covers that I offer, which are only 3, because I like to keep things really minimalistic for my clients. I offer 3 main cover colors, and then 1 style of album, that's it. And then 1 mini style of album, and that's it.
Yeah, that is so important. Now, the one thing about GTA Imaging is they make a bunch of different album styles, and then they have a billion different cover options and stuff. And you hit on something that I think I want to dig into, because I think a lot of photographers who are starting to move into that realm of selling finished product look at whatever company they're going to buy from and say, okay, I got to list all the sizes or all the cover options. And you've gone the opposite route, which I think is brilliant, because you've simplified this for your customer. You're not going to overwhelm them with anything. It's just, this is it.
Yeah.
If you want, if they're real, I guess if they're really kind of going, this isn't really my thing, you might pull out some extra samples, or extra cover options, I guess. But
I do have a few stored away. That is true. But I've never had to pull them out.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the way it works. And I think it makes sense to simplify. So how many different sizes do you have in albums?
That's a good question. I have them sitting here. I'm just going to hold them up. So this is an 8x8. I love the cameo cover. So it's the vintage linen. And then each page is custom designed. So you see there's a variety.
Love it.
I have the smaller version, which is a 5x5, which is essentially exactly the same design, but it's just in a smaller book. And that way, these are great for grandparents or children. As families get older, I always say this is the one that you keep as a family, and this is the one you make for your child. And each kid gets one of these. And
so do you actually find that you're selling, multiple books at the same ordering session?
Yes.
And are they basically identical inside?
That's right. Not in size, right? Like
sorry, inside. Like the layouts are all the same. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, cool. So that's that makes life so much easier. I noticed you also went with square albums. Any particular reason behind going to a square format, or was it just because you liked it?
I like it. I feel like it's very minimalistic. I don't often do squares in wall art. I find I'm a lot more drawn to horizontals and verticals in terms of creating something for the wall. So I wanted to have kind of a variety of shapes. And I think that the square looks really, really nice on a coffee table. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
I think the other thing that you've done there, is it just the two sizes, 5x5, 8x8? Is there a bigger one? Or there's
the only thing that changes is the amount of spreads inside the book, right?
Oh.
So everyone gets the 8x8. That's like the standard. If you want to get smaller books for friends and family, that would be the 5x5.
Right. Okay.
And you can't buy the 5x5 unless you buy the 8x8 first. I should mention that.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So that's a good little tip for a lot of people out there, because I know some people are very inclined to just sell the smallest one because they're afraid of sometimes asking for the money. So sell the bigger one and say, well, you can get the smaller one for this add-on price. So that just becomes a great little add-on sale.
Exactly. And that way I'm not spending my time designing albums that then are so tiny and they're not really something to showcase, right?
Yeah.
I want people to have something on their coffee table that's inviting to open, that people that come to their house want to see, so that they'll call me and ask me to do their pictures too.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah. I mean, the simplest way to make any image just pop or look amazing is just to print it a little bit bigger. In these books, I mean, if you look at your 8x8, that's what, a 16x8 image by the time you unfold it. Like it's big. Yeah. And that when you have that full page spread of just one image, sometimes it can be so impactful.
It can.
And that's really cool. The other little note, I guess it might be obvious, but it might not be. The little tip, I guess I'll share is that if you're doing albums, like they should all be the same format, right? Like the same dimensions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
5x5 to 8x8 to say 10x10 or 12x12, whatever the size may be. If you keep that the same proportion, making a smaller copy from the bigger one is like ridiculously easy.
Yes.
Right? And I think you've obviously figured that out, and it's probably really obvious to you, but I mean, I know some people who do, or I used to do like a 9x12 book, like a horizontal book. And then I did a 10x8. So like both horizontal books, but the proportions were different. And if somebody changed their mind or they wanted to get a copy book, it's like, I've got to recrop and move stuff around. It doesn't work properly.
That's right.
So that's a really good little tip to keep going there. So one of the last questions I want to ask. So like you're going through this album with your customer, you're getting into kind of the sales aspect again. what is the biggest objection people give you when it comes to purchasing an album?
Well, there aren't really many objections. I mean, the album design is already done, right? So it's just a matter of whether they choose wall art or whether they choose albums. I offer in my studio, and this might be different for other people in the world, but I offer, if you purchase over a certain amount, then you get your digital images for free. And that is a huge part of the reason I think why people come to me, because they know that that's really where my heart is at. I want them to have printed products. So really, like I said, it's just a matter of deciding which one are we feeling more drawn to. And some people get both, which is awesome.
Yeah. I think that I want to just dig into one other thing you said there. You said you want people to leave your studio with finished products.
Yeah.
I mean, I know why, but tell me why you think it's important.
I think, especially because I work with a lot of moms who are young and overwhelmed, they've got little kids at home, they're going to go home, put that USB in a drawer, and that's where it's going to stay. They're never going to print it. They're not going to think of me necessarily the next time they want to have something created, because I didn't really walk them through the whole process last time. They might get another USB and put that in a drawer too, but that's not doing them, a favor. That's just me making money. And I want to do more than that for people. I want to actually create something for people. I want them to walk into their home, see something beautiful that reminds me of the good times in my life. I want them to sit back, smile, and just deeply sigh and just really enjoy their lives. So by creating something like an album that can really help them relive that session, I think I'm doing them a justice, or I don't know what the word is for that. I think it's really important that they leave here with something that can remind them of me as well. And I think it's really important for marketing purposes, so that they're able to tell other people about me, so that they're reminded of what a great job I did last time, so that they can do something with their kids. And it's all about building kids' confidence and reminding them of how loved they are. There's so many great reasons.
Absolutely. But I mean, I think for the group of people who are going to be watching these videos, I think they need to hear other photographers say stuff like that. I think we're all told you should make printed products for your customers, but hearing somebody else give their reasons why, I think is so important. So I love what you just said. So let's go through the design process. So shoots finished. Do you review the pictures same day, or do they come back on a separate day?
1 week from the date of their session, they come back in. So an hour after the shoot itself, I send them a link to my calendar to choose a date that's either 7 days or later. And then they come back in, all the images are finished. There is a USB ready for them to take home if they spend enough money to earn it, or they can buy it outright. And so I've got that album design ready to go. I've got wall art options ready to go. And I've got a slideshow of all of their images, so we can flip through that. The whole process of an ordering appointment, I would say, takes about an hour. Typically, the album design that I've created for them, they just leave it as is. They don't change a thing. They love it just the way it is, because we've done so much talking before that point for them to tell me what it is that they're looking for. I know what images they want really big in that book. You know what I mean? So it's easy for them to design. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're showing them the album design, are you showing them the album design software? Here's the way the book's laid out, or are they just kind of JPEGs exported from that in the slideshow? How does that look for you?
So I create my album designs in Smart Albums. And I will have that up in one tab, and then I'll actually bring in the JPEGs to ProSelect, which is the software I used with my IPS sessions, and I will put them in one of our categories. So in ProSelect, they have a happy face, somewhat happy face, and then a sad face. So I'll put them in one of those little folder categories, and then we'll run through that as an album slideshow, 10 seconds per slide to beautiful music. Then after that, we'll look at our wall art options, and we'll jump into all of the images from the whole session, so they can enjoy it from beginning to end.
Cool. And you said they leave the album pretty much alone. Like they don't do a whole lot of changes.
That's right. Yeah. I should mention too, as they're going through the album slideshow, I give them a book to hold in their hands. And I say, this is what the book will feel like in your hands. As we're watching the slideshow of the album design I've created for you, I want you to feel what this feels like. And you'll see on the screen what it will look like. So
cool. That's awesome. So the other question I have towards the sales process now, like with the album, is so like they've decided on, they love the images that go in it. Can they do anything to customize the album?
definitely. Yeah. If there's something that they want to do to change, then like we'll run through it real quick. We'll just go through the spreads and I'll, ask them to let me know if they are okay with this one, go to the next one. Okay with this one, go to the next one. If as we're going through the images in ProSelect, I notice that they are loving images that aren't in the book. Typically, I create the book the day before they come in, so I know which images are large. It's just part in my memory, right?
Yep.
So if I see that there's images in the love that aren't in the book, I will talk about it as we're flipping through, and I will suggest that we bring them in. So when we look at the album slideshow, we're in ProSelect, but when we're actually confirming that the album is perfect, we're in Smart Albums, and we're able to go in and move things around if needed, which I said, like I said, it's not very often. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and then further to that, do you do any upgrades to the physical book itself at that point either?
Okay. So the album,
obviously you've got your 3 covers to choose from.
Yeah.
But is there any fanciness that the book can adapt based on the customer?
No.
It's just done. That is, choose one of your.
That's it. Yeah, you choose your cameo cover image, and that's it. It's super, super easy. If they want to add more pages, make the book longer, they can do that. That's really the only upgrade.
Okay, cool. See, and I think that's one of also the very important aspects I want to hit on in the sales of an album is that it's not a bad idea to keep this simple, right? Like, like you can overwhelm people with all these additional options and stuff like that. And it can get people can feel like they're just being added on. And
that's right.
I like the way you do it. It's like, here, 3 covers, choose your front cover image. We're done.
Yeah. And in terms of paper, we talked about deep matte paper briefly earlier. I tell all my clients the Fuji deep matte paper is the paper that my work is meant to be printed on.
Yes.
It gives it that softness that it needs. It's such a pretty, subtle color. This is the way my work is intended to look. And then they're like,
I can't begin to tell you how much I love that paper. Like, even though it costs a little bit more to make a book with that paper, I have effectively gone to exclusively that paper. Like, I don't even offer a luster option or anything else because I just love this paper. I still remember when I went into GTA Imaging, I don't know, it's got to be years ago now. And they said, hey, we have this new paper. Do you want to make a sample print? And then I asked, like, could this be put in a book? And then they just go, yeah, I guess. And then like a few weeks later, they had this book sample. And I was just, oh my God, I'm from here on in, deep matte. Because I think the thing I love most about it is like when you hold the book, no matter what angle you've got it at, there's no reflection.
Yeah.
So like you can look at it under a bunch of little pot lights or next to a window and it still looks visible at every angle. So
I think another really good thing is that it's totally different from what our clients can get at a store themselves, right? That's huge.
Yeah, I think everybody out there in the interweb land, you just need to get your hands on a stuff. We can show pictures all we want on the video here, but it's not going to do this justice.
That's right.
And there is even the feel of that paper is a little different. Like, it's less sticky. It's just smooth. I don't know. I could rant about this stuff for an hour and a half.
It's funny. I said to one of my clients one time as we were touching the book, I'm like, it feels like rich people. And they laughed so hard.
That's awesome. Yeah, so and the last question I want to ask is, how do you kind of package the book for delivery to the client? Is it, I mean, you're obviously not just handing them like a loose album and saying, here, you're probably dressing it up somehow. What are you using to dress it up in the final presentation?
Yeah, so this is where GTA is amazing. So what they do actually, because I'm a busy mom, I have 4 kids, I'm running my own business. I drop ship most of my clients' artwork right to their house. So GTA boxes it up in this beautiful white box. They have a care card they stick in there. They have a white I don't know what it's called. It's just like a beautiful piece of white paper that's wrapped around the book first, and then it goes in the white box. Then they package that up all pretty for me and go ahead and mail it right to my client, so I don't have to worry about it. And that way I know they're getting something that's high quality. When it arrives, they feel like, wow, look at this amazing packaging. And yeah, it's hands off for me, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, that's really key, I think, as well. It's just to have that little extra finish to a product, just so like when somebody gets it, it's just like they feel like it's like some kind of holiday where you're just going to unwrap something.
Yes.
I'm sure you must get the occasional video of them like looking at this and just going, "Oh my God, this is so amazing."
Sometimes they'll do an Insta story, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's like, and it feels so good as a photographer to know somebody just loves the work you created. Like it makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Yeah. So I think here's one last question before we finish up. Is there anything else that you think that photographers should know about selling albums, or anything we didn't cover that you're like, oh, that's a pretty cool idea, or something like that?
Yeah. So I would say customers typically want to do the same thing for every child they have. So if you have a maternity client who then buys a maternity album, they're going to want a matching newborn album. They're going to want a matching family album down the road. They can never go to another photographer to get the same book as you. Do you know what I mean? Well, I guess they could now. You guys know what I do, but you know what I mean? Typically, clients, they like for everything to match and for it to be fair for every child. So once you've created a beautiful album for a client, you know you're so much closer to having them as a client for life, because they're going to want to continue to work with you and create more artwork just like that.
Yeah, and then let's just ask another, like not necessarily related to album question, but is there an incentive you provide for repeat business?
Yeah, I do. So I have what's called a membership. So if you book 2 sessions at once, you save $100. If you book 3 sessions at once, you save $250. And that way I can get people in here for maternity, newborn, baby, and family, hopefully all within the first 18 months.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a boudoir photographer, I mean, I get people returning, but it's kind of like on a 5-year cycle-ish, you know? Okay. And it's not like as clear cut, like, maternity, newborn, toddlerish kind of stuff. So it's like, there's less of that link. I mean, usually my connection is like individual shoot and then a couple shoot. But yeah, I love that idea where you have the ability as a family photographer to have that lifetime kind of interaction with somebody on a much more frequent basis than I get to have, which is, I'm kind of envious. I'm not going to lie. But thank you so much, Karen. I'm so glad you shared all this info with us. This was great. Like there was some fantastic little pieces of information in here that I think people are going to walk away from just going, man, I never thought of that. And we'll help some people sell some more product, because ultimately, if we all stop selling just digital images, this industry we have becomes stronger. And that's one thing I want to really emphasize.
Yeah.
So it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Now, where can people find and follow you?
Sure. So they can visit my website, which is Reflections of Life Photography. So it's rolphoto.ca. You can follow me on Instagram at rolphoto.ca. You can find me on Facebook at Reflections of Life Photography.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm Trevor, and you can follow me on Instagram at provocateur_images. And my site is provocateurs.ca. And I just want to give a big shout out thanks to GTA Imaging for sponsoring this video series, because if you want a lab that can make the products that we're talking about, they're kind of the ones to do it. And just check the link below in the show notes, because that's how you can set up an account with them and get the process started for finding out their pricing, but also just, you know, I don't know, just getting the process started in selling finished products, because that's so important. And make sure that you like and follow and just like interact with this video by putting some comments down below. So until next time, everybody, bye.
Bye.